Hi guys, there is only one A9 III in all of the country of Canada right now. That is true. They actually overnighted the camera from New York City up here to Toronto just for yours truly. And also there was a large camera convention, the ProFusion Expo here in Toronto, but still mostly I think it was for me. And I also went out with a couple of creators. I went out with Kofi and River from Toronto right here as well. And we went out with Daniel, the rep from Sony, hands-on experience with the camera. So Kofi, what are you going to do here with the A9 III?
So basically, there are very few cameras that have global shutter, right? So you have the A9 III, and that's, I think, Sony's first global shutter camera, but there is one other one that most people know, and it's the Red Komodo, the Komodo X. Now, I don't have the original Red Komodo, but the global shutter is going to be the same on both. So honestly, I'm just going to see what each of them look like. And then we're going to see some dynamic range results as well. But although it's not the most fair on this guy, it does have a couple stops of dynamic range, but it's fun to compare stuff together.
This is a collab. That's what they say in the biz, a YouTube collab.
Some people say like collab, and like they say it like it's two separate words, and it's kind of weird. But yeah, no, this is going to be, I think there's technically 3 of us here. River's somewhere in the back. And I mean, there's 4 because Daniel's here too. But you might see more than one video. So make sure you go and check out more of Mark's stuff. He has a ton of really cool stuff.
It's the best stuff on YouTube. All right, go check out Kofi's channel. He's almost as good as me. Almost.
Oh, some fighting words.
It's insane, really, how fast this is. Oh God. I mean, you just don't miss shots anymore. You know what I mean? Okay, we're here with River.
What's up? What's good? What's good?
You go subscribe to River's channel, even though you already have. Kids has 215,000 subscribers, and I have 35. But River,
You're too nice, Mark.
Because he's doing so well, and he's such a great photographer. He was invited to the Sony press release of the A9 III. So he's had hands-on twice now. Only man in Canada with hands-on twice.
3 times actually, 3 times.
You know what? You don't have to brag.
We did a secret one too. But honestly, amazing camera. One of the reasons that I've always had a red camera at every point in my career is because I love being able to shoot high-speed video and just take raw frames out. And with the A9, you're basically able to shoot 24 megapixels, which is essentially 6K resolution at 120 frames per second. When it comes to fashion photography, any kind of product photography, I tend to do a lot of thumbnails where I hold the camera in my hand and I'll kind of like move and take a thumbnail with like the city behind it. Just, it's all taken care of. You're basically shooting photos as fast as video, if not faster. It is essentially like, as someone that likes to move my camera like a video camera, you can now do that with the A9. It sounds funny to say, but it is a filmmaker's photo camera.
Now, I can kind of see why they invited him and not me, but still, it would have been nice to go. Come on, Sony.
And the A9 also does 4K 120 and 60 without a crop, which is a first for Sony on a high-resolution sensor, so it's a really big deal for filmmakers.
Stop talking about your in-depth knowledge, because you've had hands-on 3 times. 3 times. Now, of course, it's still pre-production firmware, so I can't provide any kind of downloadable files, but I can show you the 4K footage I took, the 4K 120, and the JPEGs that I took as well, because we can't process the raw photos right now. And I will tell you what, hands-on experience with this camera, like to hear the specs is one thing, but to actually use the thing, oh my goodness, we all know about the global shutter. So, you know, you're not going to get any rolling shutter at all. You're also not going to get any banding, any flicker. You can use flash at any sync speed. Right here is the 4K footage that you're looking at. It looks great. The 4K 120, which has no crop whatsoever. You don't have to change your framing at all. Now, the 4K 120 is not downsampled from 6K like the 4K 24 or the 4K 60. The 4K 60 is downsampled from 6K, so that is still crazy good. But that 4K 120 to me still looks really, really great. But let me show you something that I think is absolutely mind-blowing. So what I'm about to show you doesn't make any sense to me at all. I'm just going to go into Lightroom and I'm going to show you some pictures that Daniel, the Sony rep, took of me as I was running majestically, I might add. And I am just going to hold my finger down on the right arrow key and scroll through the photos. Look at this. It looks like someone just took a movie of me running. There is nothing missing, and every single one of these shots is in perfect focus. I just 120 frames per second, every single shot in focus, and you can just scroll right through that. I can't believe it. It is like cheating. It is wonderful. I love it. And you can do that with 14-bit RAW photos. It is not exclusive to JPEG. You will be able to do that with your RAW photos. And don't forget about the pre-burst mode, where you just have your finger down on the shutter and you're ready to take the shot, but maybe you missed the shot because something happened too fast. But you can up to a second before you actually press the shutter button down fully, it will still record the photos. And if you're up at like 120 frames per second, you're just not going to miss anything. That EVF is 9.44 million dots. It looks so fantastic, especially out there in the bright sunshine. You can see it so easily. No blackouts, 120 frames per second, no blackouts in that wonderful EVF. And then you have the tilty, flippy screen, the multi-axis tilt screen, and that is just so great. I want that on all of the Sony cameras. I know it's not going to be on all of the Sony cameras, but I would love it. That is just so convenient, because when you're taking photos, you often don't want to pull the screen away from the body when you want to get a different angle. You just like to tilt it, up or down. You can do that, but then you can also flip it and flip it over. The grip is also the best grip I have ever felt on a Sony camera. It is so comfortable. The camera has made these small ergonomic adjustments. It's still a tiny, lightweight camera, which Sony is known for with their photo cameras, but it feels so comfortable to hold it. That grip extension also makes it even more comfortable, and certainly you will get much more battery life and many more shots if you do that. Oh, speaking of the shots, you do want the CF Express A card if you are using this camera. I was using my V90 card, and the buffer, as soon as you hold it down for a few shots, it just buffers for a long time. I would say maybe, 15, 20 seconds. I don't have a precise. Basically, it definitely was getting in the way. So I wished I had brought a CF Express card, but I am not very organized, so I had forgotten that. So I was using the V90. You can use the V90 for the modes, but know that if you're taking those burst rates, your buffer is going to fill up quickly and it's going to take a long time to clear. When it comes to video too, it's got that dynamic active stabilization that you see in the ZV-E1, and I love that. I find it hard to live without the dynamic active stabilization these days. It's gimbal-like footage without a gimbal. But even without the dynamic stabilization, you have 8 stops of in-body image stabilization in the actual body itself. So that is wonderful for taking photos. It's good for video too, but I still prefer having the dynamic active stabilization. I think it really smooths out the footage. But when it comes to taking photos, having 8 stops of IBIS in that Sony camera is great. Of course, you have the AI chip with all the latest and greatest Sony tech, so you just simply keep things in focus. You can track anything. You can track animals. You can track birds, planes, trains, automobiles. This camera is just so much fun to use. Yes? It's so much fun to use. You do have that clever card slot system where it can take 2 SD cards, but also it could take 2 CF Express A cards if you don't want to use the SD cards in the slot. And of course, you should definitely get the CF Express A for this camera. Now, while this camera is not cheap, if I was a professional sports photographer or wildlife photographer, I would not hesitate to invest into this camera. It is just the speed. And the video features are just stupendous. You have 4K 24, 4K 60, both downsampled from 6K 10-bit, 422 all-I codecs. You have 4K 120 with 0 crop. It is just a full-size HDMI. This thing is a heavy-duty video camera, but it's an even better photography camera. It is just an excellent all-around camera, and anyone who picks up this camera, I am sure, is going to be very, very happy with it. And a big thanks to Sony Canada for helping me out, letting me, take a look at this thing just up close and personal, taking my pictures of my swans, and more importantly, my gorgeous mug. And thanks for watching this. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I will do my best to answer them. I didn't have the camera very long, so I told you what I could tell you about my experience. And let me know down below if this is a camera you are interested in. If not, what are you interested in? And we'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.